Good afternoon. The board meeting of the Gateway Development Commission is now called to order. Today, we are holding a public meeting of the Gateway Development Commission's Board of Commissioners. Today's meeting is being held in person, but as part of the transition from virtual meeting as a result of the COVID-19 public health crisis, public comments will continue to be solicited virtually. Audio is also being live streamed from the Gateway program website. The Commission will solicit comments from members of the public who have signed up for in-person comment. The Commission is also soliciting comments from the public that may be participating today virtually. A form of the soliciting of these comments is posted on the Gateway program website for those who wish to submit a comment for today's meeting. Acting Secretary Caulfield, may I ask you to conduct the roll call and report on the public notice for today's meeting?
Co-Chair Graywall-Verk.
Present.
Vice Chair Kosha.
Present.
Commissioner Barbas.
Present.
Commissioner Bauer.
Present.
Commissioner Dominguez. Commissioner Glenn.
Present.
Commissioner Zarrow is absent from today's meeting. We have a quorum. Adequate notice of today's regular public meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Gateway Development Commission has been provided in accordance with the Commission's enabling legislation. The agenda and public documents pertaining to the board meeting have been made publicly available on the Gateway Program's website. Notice of the meeting was posted to the website 5 business days before the meeting, and public notice of the time and place of the meeting was provided to appropriate media outlets. A video recording of this meeting will be posted on the Gateway Program website.
Thank you, Mr. Caulfield. Given the recent resignation of co-chair Stephen M. Cohen and the nomination and confirmation by the New York State Senate of Alicia Glenn as a GDC New York Commissioner, there must be an election for the New York co-chair. I will now ask Acting Secretary Caulfield to conduct the election of the New York co-chair.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Pursuant to the GDC Act, and in accordance with provisions of Article 2 of the bylaws of the Commission, the New York co-chairperson of the Commission shall be selected from the 3 New York Commissioners of the Commission, determined by the affirmative vote of at least 2 of the New York Commissioners. Do any of the New York Commissioners wish to nominate a New York Commissioner for election of New York co-chair? Yes.
I will proceed with my nomination. It gives me great pleasure to nominate Commissioner Alicia Glenn to serve as co-chair for the state of New York on the GDC, on the Gateway Development Commission. She is not only a native New Yorker, a proud one, but she is also expert in some critical areas that that GDC is looking to foster, and that is urban development, infrastructure financing, and certainly project delivery. She served as deputy mayor for the city of New York from 2014 to 2019, where she had a record of accomplishment to include being a champion for expanding the arts, parks, and multimodal transportation systems across the city of New York. That translates directly to an incredible record of accomplishment, not only for the city, but for the state and for the global connectivity of New York State and our entire region. One of her outstanding accomplishments was designing and implementing the largest affordable housing plan here in New York City in the nation's history. So right here in New York City, leading that effort. Prior to serving as deputy mayor, she was head of urban investment of the Urban Investment Group at Goldman Sachs. The bottom line is that her executive leadership, her management experience, her time in both government and the private sector are incredibly well suited for the complex financing and delivery of the project that we're undertaking here today. So it's with great pleasure that I nominate Alicia Glenn to serve as co-chair for the GDC for the state of New York.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominguez. Is there a second?
I believe Alicia Glenn very well qualified, and I second the nomination.
Thank you, Commissioner Barbas. I move this motion to a vote. Commissioner Barbas?
Aye.
Commissioner Dominguez?
Aye.
Commissioner Glenn? The motion passes. For the record, the board resolution number 0722-01 will be completed per the results of this New York co-chair election.
Thank you, Mr. Cofier. At this time, I'd like to congratulate Co-Chair Glenn, welcome, along with the other commissioners here. Congratulations, everyone, and welcome any remarks that she may have.
Sure. Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank that lovely introduction by my fellow Commissioner Dominguez, and also thank Valpreet and all the other commissioners for being so supportive and working with me on this. I also obviously do want to especially thank Steve Cohen for many years of his service and his dedication to Gateway. I think it's fair to say that no one has been a more steady champion for the project and for the state of New York. Governor Hochul has made it very, very clear that Gateway is a top commitment of the administration, and I really am honored to work on that commitment. I wouldn't have taken this job if this wasn't a very serious undertaking that the governor and everybody here really intends to prosecute. And I think that starts very much with getting the Hudson Tunnel project funded and full construction started. And it also includes expanding Penn Station so that the full benefits of the tunnel will ultimately be realized in terms of increasing capacity to the region. I am personally going to be completely focused on building out the commission into a real and robust and capable organization that will bring a 21st century rail connection between New York and New Jersey. I want to particularly thank and acknowledge so many of the GDC staff who have already done such an amazing job of getting us to where we are today and to keeping the project moving forward, and also to being a traditional sort of continuity bridge, if not a tunnel, a bridge for me personally also to get up to speed. I want to particularly thank Frank Saker, Suma Mandel, Julia Curson, and Ben Engel. And again, I'm very excited that we build on their work and keep moving forward. I also want to thank and be excited in advance to work with and thank our new CEO, Chris Kaluri, as well as both of the governors, the Biden administration, Majority Leader Schumer, and all of our federal partners, because I think it's fair to say this is going to take more than just a village. It's going to take an incredible collective effort of all of these entities to meet this moment and build the most urgent infrastructure project in the nation. So I'm very excited to be part of this, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome again, Co-Chair Glenn. Good to have you here. Before we continue into the public portion of today's meeting, we'll be entering into executive session to discuss contract negotiations, personnel matters, and matters in which the release of information could impair a right to receive funds from the United States. After the executive session, the board will reconvene in public session at 1:15 p.m. or shortly thereafter to continue the meeting, during which we will hear from Frank Sacker and Steve Sigmund for an update on the Gateway program. I make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss contract negotiations, personal matters, and matters in which the release of information could impair a right to receive funds from the United States or other grantor. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Afternoon again. I hereby reconvene the open session board meeting. Mr. Caulfield, do we have a quorum?
Yes, all commissioners, with the exception of Commissioner Zarrow, are in attendance, and we have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Caulfield. I want to welcome everyone back to today's meeting of the Gateway Development Commission. Before we turn to the Gateway program update, I'd like to announce that the board has completed the process of engaging Mr. Chris Kaluri as the inaugural CEO of GDC. That was initially detailed in the May 16th resolution adopted by the GDC board. Following the appointment and confirmation by the State of New York of Alicia Glenn in early June to replace Steve M. Cohen as GDC New York Commissioner. The three of us, meaning myself, Tony, and Alicia, have worked closely together since Ms. Glenn has come on board to negotiate the terms of Mr. Calori's engagement as CEO. All of the commissioners have supported an organized process to finalize the terms with Mr. Calori following the recommendation of Governors Hochul and Governor Murphy in early May, and we thank them for their hard work in completing this process. We're confident that Mr. Calori will be experienced, smart, and committed as a leader for GDC, and will continue to build on that critical work that GDC and its staff have engaged in over the past few years to deliver the most urgent project in this country. We are grateful to our governors, Governor Hochul and Governor Murphy, for recommending Mr. Calori to us, and we're excited to get to work with him and to keep moving this program, the Gateway Development Program, forward. And we are excited to actually have him here. Mr. Calori, welcome. Do you have any comments or remarks for us today?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I am going to keep this very brief. First, let me congratulate Co-Chair Glenn on becoming for her new position. I know all of you are volunteers, but I also know how dedicated and seriously you take your obligation to be on this board. I am honored to work with you to build and advance one of the most important infrastructure projects in the country. HDP is not just a project of regional significance, it is a project of national significance. So failure is not an option. And I assure you one thing, I'm going to put my all into this. I have met with each and every one of you, and I have committed to build on the work that the staff who were here before did, and to work collaboratively with all our partners to do that. In looking at where we are today as an organization, I look at two things. One, I've never seen the kind of broad-based support for a program and project like the one we have today in front of us. Number two, the momentum for this project is at the best that I think we have seen as GDC. And part of that, and most of that, is because of the recent actions by Governor Hochul and Murphy to sign the MOU. We, and me in particular, working for you and with you, are going to focus with absolute urgency on standing up the organization so we can become eligible to receive federal funds, and then singularly focus on getting to an FFGA. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. I know how much time you expend to make sure we do right, and I will do everything in my power to make sure we do right by the organization and the taxpayers of both the states. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Calori, and welcome again. Good to have you here today. The next item on today's agenda is the report on the minutes of the May 16th, 2022 meeting of the board. I will now turn to Mr. Caulfield for a report on the minutes of that meeting.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Copies of the minutes of the meeting of May 16th, 2022 were delivered in electronic form by myself to the governors of New York and New Jersey on May 26, 2022. The time for action by the governors of New York and New Jersey expired at midnight on June 11th, 2022, at which time actions recorded in the minutes went into full force and effect.
Thank you, Mr. Caulfield. We'll now turn to Frank Sacker and Steve Sigmund for an update on the Gateway program. Thank you both for joining us here today.
Thank you all, Commissioners, for having us, and welcome Co-Chair Glenn and Chris. It's great to have you all and continue to build on the leadership of this program. Today we are going to give you an update on some of the developments in the Phase 1 program and on the development of GDC since last we saw one another in May. As you all know, Governors Hochul and Murphy signed a historic MOU at the beginning of the month, committing each of the states to their share of funding for the Phase 1 projects and making sure that the states and the federal government are true partners in building these important projects. And the next phase, as they detailed in their announcement, is developing the responsibilities for each of the parties in delivering the Hudson Tunnel project, as Chris said, our singular focus going forward. On the Portal North Bridge, as we said in the past, there's a notice to proceed that has been given. The construction is beginning. Site preparations are underway, and I wanted to note a couple of things about the current bridge. There had been some conversation over the last few years that the bridge was not opening and closing frequently, and questioning whether that meant the new bridge should be as high or fixed. And that, as we said in those periods, could change, and it has changed. As you see, since March, the bridge has opened 60 times, an average of 4 times per week, because Bergen County is now resumed doing its sludge barges via that waterway. So the bridge is necessary to open and close. Even when it opens and closes without a malfunction, it delays all the trains that are lined up at that point. There was an opening, I think, a week ago that delayed 10 trains, and that's a very common occurrence, even without the problems we've all seen in opening and closing. The openings are restricted to non-rush hours, an agreement that Amtrak made with the Coast Guard a couple of years ago, so that is fortunate, but bottom line is we need this new bridge, and it's being built. I will turn it over to Frank Saker to give you an update on the Hudson Tunnel project.
Don't go too fast, Dave. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I just want to include a slide here to provide some updates on some recent milestones. Some of them we've talked about briefly before, but we thought it was good to refresh and provide some updates on where we are. Active first half of the year, I think, as we say there, whether it's the Army Corps permit, the geotech investigation work that was done earlier in the year to prepare for the geotech baseline review. Obviously, the medium-high rating of the project by the FTA, the funding recommendation. There's been a number of steps that have gone on through the first 6 months or so. I want to focus a second on the ongoing items as well. Since our last board meeting in May, we continued engagement with the US DOT, preparing material for the CIG program, engaging on other grant headings that the Hudson Tunnel project can be eligible for, as well as engaging with the Build America Bureau as well in terms of the preparation of a draft letter of interest to advance that side of the financial plan, which will include well over $6 billion in federal loans in our application. So all of that work is ongoing, and I think will be built on now. I think finally, for all that work, I'd also echo the comments that were made earlier, Co-Chair Glenn and others, that and thank the staff who've been doing this work and getting it to the point where it's at, and certainly a world-class team. I want to take a second as well, 1 minute more, on the CIG grant process, because we get a lot of questions regarding the process itself, as to where we are in it, with various announcements that we make from time to time, and the steps we have to go through. This chart that you see is actually the FTA's chart, basically setting out the phases of the CIG program, from project development phase through the engineering phase and the full funding, ultimately to full funding grant agreement phase and the full funding grant agreement itself. With the medium-high rating and the work that's being done by really GDC and its partners, we're preparing the material to facilitate moving from that project development phase towards the engineering phase. We'll have obviously more to say about that in coming weeks and months, but certainly there's a lot has been done, a lot to do yet, and I think that's the excitement for the coming months. I'd take giving shout outs here, I'd also give a shout out here in terms of the work that FTA and the FTA staff have been doing in helping us to prepare and organise a lot of this information to get to them. And must say there's been a very good working relationship with FTA over the past, certainly over the past months as we're pulling this material together. Thank you. I'm going to hand back to Steve. Thank you, Commissioner.
So just we wanted to wrap up with one last point on sort of the development of GDC itself since its inception and the bi-state legislation that was passed late in 2019. We've made a number of developments in terms of board appointments, obviously, and in terms of our activities, developing bylaws and policies, committing to assume the NEPA project sponsorship over time, and with today's announcements of a co-chair in New York and our inaugural CEO in Chris, I think both our co-chair and Chris said this, but just to reiterate it, the next steps are to build out the capacity and capability of this commission to really deliver on these incredibly important projects, and particularly the Hudson Tunnel project. So with that, we thank you for your attention and your support and look forward to our ongoing work together. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments from the board? I note for the record that the commission has solicited in-person and virtual comments from the public in advance of and during today's meeting. A form for soliciting these comments was posted to the GDC website in advance of the meeting, and members of the public attending in person also had the opportunity to register when arriving. The comment form for virtual participation was available throughout today's meeting. The Commission did not receive any virtual public comments by 5 p.m. on Monday, July 18th, 2022. If any virtual comments are received during today's meeting, they will be distributed to the board and posted on the Gateway Program website after today's meeting. All public comments received will also be filed in the Commission's records. Mr. Caulfield will now conduct the public comment period for those speakers who have registered in person today. Mr. Caulfield.
Thank you. Today we have 4 registered speakers. Speakers, in order to give everyone an opportunity to be heard, we request you limit your comments to 3 minutes. In accordance with the GDC open meetings policy, the public comment period may be limited to 30 minutes. The first speaker is Christopher Boylan.
Good afternoon, chairs, members of the board. My name is Christopher Boylan. I'm here representing the General Contractors Association of New York. And we have 300 member firms who represent about 25,000 trades and professionals who build the region's heavy civil infrastructure projects. We've been a supporter of Gateway since its very inception. In fact, we were at the very first Gateway Development Corporation meeting, and we've attended just about every other commission meeting since. We're also co-chairs of the Build Gateway Now Coalition and the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor, which support your efforts. We've actually advocated for years for federal and state funding and administrative approvals for the project, and also for the Penn Station improvements. So we're particularly pleased by today's action to bring aboard Chris Kaluri. And from my previous career, I was at the MTA for 21 years and retired as Deputy Executive Director. I had the pleasure of having some limited interaction with Chris, and I'm confident he'll bring not only transportation expertise, but decisiveness to the table. I was particularly pleased to hear him use the word urgency, because there are many, many hundreds of critical path decisions that need to be made over the next few years, and they all need to have a sense of urgency. They'll be made not only by this board, but by the states of New York and New Jersey and Amtrak and Congress and DOT and FRA and a host of others. I know from personal experience at the MTA that even with the best of intentions, all those decisions are inflection points that can either thwart or advance an accelerated project. Case in point, I was hired in April of 1990 at the MTA to get money for the East Side Access Project and 2nd Avenue Subway. And I did get several $1 million earmarked to kickstart the project from Congress. But pending a firm commitment from the governor at the time, the legislature and key supporters in Washington, the project idled for many years. And in 1996, they were finally added to the MTA's capital program. That isn't the end of the story, because next came the effort to get an FFGA from the FTA, and that took until 2006. So now, 16 years into the process, we're just getting to the full funding grant agreement. Second Avenue Subway was completed in 2017. East Side Access is supposed to be completed at the end of this year. That's 32 years after I started at the MTA. Now, none of this is meant to be critical of any of those who worked on the project, but there were many, many and changing players throughout the years that didn't necessarily share the sense of urgency that we had or the riding public had. So I think with the current process, we think that you have the prevailing winds at your back. With the recent funding agreement between the two states, the money that Senator Schumer was able to get for passenger and freight rail in the IIJA, we're more optimistic that things will happen more quickly. We also hope that all the players will continue to work together to integrate the various plans, the plans under the Hudson River, the plans at track level, the plans at concourse level, and the plans above ground to ensure that Penn Station and Gateway will work well. So let me just close and thank you in advance for the work that you have that lies ahead. And we look forward to working with you in partnership and with other stakeholders to build Gateway better, faster, smarter, more cost effectively. And for my colleagues as part of the coalition, and more importantly, to build Gateway now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Aaron Sanders.
Good afternoon. My name is Aaron Sanders, and I'm the Director of Policy at the Association for a Better New York, commonly referred to as ABNY. ABNY is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the advancement and support of New York City's people, businesses, and communities. We are a 50-year-old civic organization representing community stakeholders, including corporations, nonprofits, unions, government authorities, and educational, cultural, and health institutions. ABNY continues to support the advancement of the Gateway Development Project. We are happy to see that Governor Kathy Hochul and Governor Phil Murphy recently signed the MOU required by the Gateway Development Commission Act, along with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey's Executive Director, Rick Cotton. Further, we're delighted to see the appointment of Alicia Glenn to the Gateway Development Commission. Glenn's exemplary record of public service is a commendable addition to the commission. The Northeastern Corridor is the most utilized railway in the United States. Given the railway's heavy utilization, this project will connect New Yorkers across the Northeast region of the United States and increase resiliency and capacity between New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania Station in New York City. As we shift to post-pandemic recovery, upgraded infrastructure must be developed to support increased interstate travel. The NEC is a vital passageway in the region and an important component of the national transportation network. As this project continues, we look forward to working with our partners in the Build Gateway Now coalition to ensure that this project progresses to safeguard the economic future of New Yorkers and the broader Northeast region. This is a unique opportunity to improve the quality of life for everyday New Yorkers, commuters, tourists, visitors, and we hope this positive momentum carries forward. I want to thank the chair, co-chairs, and the board for this opportunity.
Thank you. The next speaker is Carlo Casa.
Good afternoon. I'm Carlo Casa. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the New York Building Congress, and I'm testifying on behalf of Carlos Chisura, President and CEO of the New York Building Congress. The New York Building Congress testifies today to commend Governor Hochul, Governor Murphy, Chris Kaluri, GDC CEO, Port Authority Executive Director Rick Cotton, for signing the Phase 1 Memorandum of Understanding for the broader Gateway program. The program will be the cornerstone of our investment in 21st century infrastructure and will dictate the next century of our region. The Hudson Tunnel and Portal North Bridge are both critical components of the infrastructure network necessary for a state-of-the-art mass transportation system for the Northeast Corridor. This corridor contributes 20% of our nation's GDP. The current Portal Bridge is over 100 years old and will be replaced by a modern two-track bridge that will span 2.5 miles of the Northeast Corridor. The Hudson Tunnel project will include the construction of a new two-track tunnel on the NEC, connecting New Jersey to Penn Station beneath the Hudson River. Both projects can and will create hundreds of good-paying jobs for New Yorkers and our neighbors in New Jersey. Moving forward with both projects will improve the connectivity for our region and reliability for the over 200,000 daily passengers that traveled this route prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. Both projects are important pieces in completing the broader Gateway program that has the potential to double rail capacity between Newark and New York. Understanding that Phase 1 will be partially funded by federal sources, with the local share split between New York and New Jersey, the Building Congress firmly believes that now is the time to call on our federal partners to deliver greater funding through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Since signed into law, only part of the $1.2 trillion commitment has been released. We need federal funding firmly in place to begin work on this project. We cannot wait any longer to get this money out the door to complete the Gateway program and other important infrastructure projects across the nation. The Gateway program will pave the way for our country's economic success, and it will benefit Americans today and generations to come. We must act now to secure greater funding and move forward with Phase 1. Thank you.
Thank you. The fourth and final speaker is Tom Wright.
Afternoon, I'm Tom Wright, President and CEO of the Regional Plan Association. RPA manages the Build Gateway Now coalition. Over 45 civic, labor, business, and elected groups united to support the nation's most urgent infrastructure project. Last month, RPA published a new report titled Gateway and the Post-COVID Economy, which found that the capacity provided by Gateway will be necessary to accommodate transit ridership that will exceed pre-COVID levels by the time the Hudson Tunnel project is completed. We estimated a range of possible futures based on work from home and economic growth scenarios and concluded that by 2050, on peak weekdays, Trans-Hudson commuting is likely to be 15 to 32% higher than it was before the pandemic. And we should keep in mind that Trans-Hudson ridership was basically above capacity before the pandemic hit. Failing to build Gateway will deter people from moving to or staying in the region, cost the region over 80,000 jobs, and increase the chances of a shutdown of one or both of the existing tracks that would cost us literally billions in lost economic activity and worsen the daily commutes of over 500,000 residents. Our report's findings have received widespread media attention and reinforce the importance of Gateway not only for the region, but as Mr. Kalori just said, the entire nation. There have been important steps taken to realize the Gateway project over the past few weeks. We applaud Governors Hochul and Murphy for signing an MOU that memorializes their commitment to the Portal North Bridge and Hudson River tunnels. Their partnership gives us the best chance to secure federal funding to complete the project. And just yesterday, New York State and City announced a framework to finance the renovation and anticipated expansion of Penn Station by approving pilots under a general project plan. And finally, I am going to join everyone here by being very pleased to welcome Chris Kalori as the CEO of GDC and co-chair Alicia Glenn as a commissioner. Chris has a proven track record as a former New Jersey DOT commissioner and brings the necessary skills and experience to his new role. And Alicia has a similarly great track record of working for the public, which is why RPA conferred on her our John Zuccotti Award in 2019. I want to congratulate both of them and all of the commissioners for the great work that you're going to do. As many people have said, the past 2 months have built momentum, and we have to capitalize on this moment. Thank you to the Gateway Development Commission for your continued leadership and for opening the floor for public comments today. It's great to be here in person, and we look forward to working with you all on this project. Thanks.
Thank you. We had an additional speaker sign up, Joseph Clift.
Good afternoon. You should have, do they have my prepared remarks, sir? If you could walk them up? Okay. Good afternoon. For the first time, you 7 commissioners have somebody to ask questions of. You've got a new CEO, Chris Kaluri. I know him from 15 years ago at New Jersey Transit. And I've got on my request today, on my prepared testimony, 3 asks I want you to do, and they're important. The first is to ask for a monthly report on the Portland North Bridge project. I believe it's over budget. I believe they used up almost all the overrun money. The bids came in higher than the budget. You should be asking the CEO for monthly reports. They should be posted online. They should be presented at board meetings. That's what the MTA does. New Jersey Transit never does that, but the MTA does. It's good practice. And included in that is the fact that New Jersey now is responsible for 100% of the cost overruns. New York will pay nothing. So for New Yorkers, it's curiosity. For New Jersey, it's an important question. My second ask for you to ask of the new CEO is to ask for monthly reports on all the gateway projects, not just the ones that they talk about, Hudson Tunnel and Portland North Bridge, but all of them. Are they in planning? Doesn't matter. Find out what the reports, what the status is, the budget, the timeline. That's important, very important. Because right now, you really don't know what's happening to all these projects that collectively have to be done to complete Gateway. And my third request, and it's the big one, is to ask CEO Kaluri to do a staff analysis of the current Gateway program. The reason for that is the RPA just said they're forecasting that ridership will be back above COVID levels in about 10 years. In 10 years, you won't have more capacity because phase 1, $14 billion, the Portland North Bridge project and the tunnels add 0 additional peak capacity. Let me say that again, 0 peak capacity. So they're spending all the money that's available, $14 billion, and you have nothing done that will help the extra ridership. The rest of Gateway is $20 billion. It's the Robert Moses scheme. Build a little bit, tell people you need to do the rest. But what needs to be done is to have a thorough review, not by Amtrak, who's stuck in the present, but to look at a program of tasks that will actually provide that additional peak hour capacity for about $14 billion in 8 to 10 years. It's very important you do that. If you follow the path you're on today, you will spend a lot of money and nothing will happen. The new tunnels are like a 4-lane highway going into a 2-lane highway. It does nothing for you. So I implore you to get the new staff to do this analysis with help if they need it. Do not ask Amtrak because they're stuck on the old system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no more speakers.
There being no further business to conduct today, I motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I move this motion to a vote. All in favor? Motion is approved and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.